let's talk about circumference now. Now, just as a review, we've already talked about perimeter of all kinds of different shapes. I'm going to just do a little bubble map to remind you. We've talked about the perimeter of a square where all sides were equal. We've talked about the perimeter of a rectangle where you have 2 long sides and 2 short sides. We've talked about the perimeter of a triangle. We've talked about the perimeter of a parallelogram. We've talked about a perimeter of a trapezoid. And now we're going to talk about a perimeter of a circle. So that's a lot of information. So it's really important to practice each shape individually, and then we'll practice mixing it all up. Now remember, when we talk about circumference, perimeter, we've got keywords. Our keywords still work for circumference. Distance around, fence, border, lap, enclose. And it doesn't matter what shape you're talking about, those words still work. Now, when we talk about circumference of a circle, we have our formula, okay? Everything's got its formula, and if you know how to work one formula, really you know how to work any formula. So the circumference is pi times diameter, and pi is that 3.1 figure, and it's right here on the calculator. If you want to understand more about pi, go check out Math Annex. He talks about that a lot, and he's really good. Okay? Pi times diameter, but if you will recall, we talked about diameter, that the diameter was twice the radius. Do you remember that in the last video? And the radius is twice the diameter. So right here, diameter is the same thing as 2 times r. So sometimes the formula is this, 2 pi r, because there's your 2 times r, which is diameter. So we really need to know both and understand how they got from here to here. Now, you need to take your formula sheet and update your formula sheet, because if you're working on HiSET, they don't give you that. They give you circumference equals 2 pi r. C equals 2 pi r. So I'm going to add C equals pi times d. That's how you say it, pi times d. Because it's just handy to know both formulas, it saves you some extra work. If you are preparing for the GED, you've got both formulas, so that's really nice and handy. Okay, so let's do some problems, some practice problems. Our steps are going to be the same. We are going to draw and label. We are going to write the formula. We're going to plug in. We're going to solve, and sometimes we're going to have to use algebra, and we're going to write our answer with units. Okay, so let's get going. Draw a circle. Put your line across it. Label it 28. You'll recognize these numbers from the previous video, but this time I want you to solve for circumference. Okay, so what did I give you here? What is 28 when it goes all the way from the outside through the center to the outside? That is the diameter, D. You're looking for circumference. Which formula would you prefer to use? If you have D, would you like to use this one? Or would you like to use this one? Because I already have D. Well, I want to use this one. That would make the most sense to me. Because now, if I write that formula, I've already got that labeled. 28 just goes right there where D is. And let me show you how to work this on the calculator. So you have pi. Look, here's your pi button. See it? And I put in the 28. Pi times 28. Hit enter. And look what it does. It just shoots back 28 pi. And that's because pi is one of those terrible looking decimal numbers that never ends. And the calculator is just, it's easier to carry pi. So if you don't want the figure pi and you want the actual number, you're going to need to hit this double arrow right above the enter, hit it one time, and there it goes. It converts it. Remember, this is 3.14. So 28 times 3, 30 times 3 is almost 90. That makes sense. You got 87 point something, something, something. Okay? And they're asking us to round this to the 10th. So we get a nice, good lesson on rounding. Underline the tenths place, circle the place to the right. Look at the circled number. Is it 5 or above? Yes. So remember, 5 or more, raise the score. So we want to raise the score of the 9. So that turns it to 10. So that's 88.0 inches. Okay. Now let's say you wanted to use this one. You want to do it the hard way and do more work, because I know you like to do more math work. Okay. So you're doing this and you come over here and you're like, oh my gosh, I need radius and I only have diameter. So what am I going to have to do? I've got to go over to diameter and find the radius, right? So I know that diameter is 2r, so I've got to take my 28 and divide it by 2, right? That's what you would do to solve. So 28 divided by 2 is 14, right? Took me a minute. 14 and 14 give you 20. Okay, now I've got radius. Good. Now we're going to go back and put it in our formula. 2 pi r c equals 2 pi 14. Look what you're doing right here. Are you not just multiplying 2 times 14, which is what you just undid over here? But if that's the way you want to do it, so then you go 2 pi 14, enter 28 pi, gee, that's just what I got up there. Double arrow, same exact answer. Okay, so you get rounded off 88.0. So this is why I say it's helpful to know your two formulas, because your test is timed and you don't have time to go and calculate this to recalculate what you just calculated. Okay, it's just a big waste of time. All right, now let's do a couple quick practice. So if you have this, and I'm asking for circumference, which formula would you use? Would you use pi times d or 2 pi r? Well, label it first. Label what you got. Now, which formula do you want? You want that one. And then you just work it. It's so easy, right? Plug that in your calculator and you can go get your answer. All right, now let's do this one over here. What if I give you this? 2.5 right here. And I want you to find circumference. All right, well, label what you have. If you'll label what you have, it will be much easier. So now I've got radius. Which one do I want to use? I want to use that one. 2 pi r c equals 2 pi 2.5. Plug it in the calculator. Get your answer. If you want us to do it, we can. Okay, 2 pi 2.5. Enter. We got to round it. 15.707. We got to round that off. So that becomes 15.7, because 0 is 4 or less. We don't care that there's a 7 next to it, remember. And I didn't even give you any units, but this was feet. Okay? So there's a few to work. Go Google some extra practice and practice just some plain figures.